Shall we wait for a minute or shall we start immediately? Subhanallah, what do you think?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. I hope that all of you are doing well. I do welcome you to the first event in the second week of the reporting period activities for this academic year, 23-24. And Dad has lined for you a set of activities this week that we hope will satisfy all tastes. Okay, the general theme of the events for this reporting period activity is academia in the era of AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You may have attended some of the events during the last week, so I hope that if you have attended any of the events, you have found them to be useful and interesting. And we hope also that you'll find the events of this week as interesting as the events of last week. The event that you're attending today is an experience sharing event that is all focused on Gradescope. Some of you may have used Gradescope in the past extensively. Some of you, I talked with a lot of people. Some have used it extensively. Some faculty have used it a little bit. Some faculty just tried it here or there, but never have actually used it. And I'm guessing that there might be a few of you who have never used it. This event, we're hoping that will be useful to everyone. For those who have used it extensively or even used it, let's say, a little bit, we're hoping that the experience sharing event will allow you to use Gradescope in a more effective and more efficient way. And if you have either not used it, but you know about it, or if you're not even aware what Gradescope is all about, we're hoping that by the end of today's event, you'll be interested, maybe, or let's say, we'll encourage you to hopefully start using it. And we have great confidence that, inshallah, once you use it, you'll find it to be useful, and you'll continue using it in the future. Just to gauge the level of utilization, or let's say the level of experience of the different participants in this event, I asked Allah to prepare kind of a short survey that contains 3 questions. So if you allow me, let me just ask Allah to run the survey. There are 3 questions. If you can just answer them, this will give us good understanding of the spread of the different participants. Sorry, the last one is a little bit long, but it has some of the features of Gradescope.
It's not fillable.
Tanallah?
It's only available only to participants. Host and
Oh,
host
okay.
cannot collect.
Okay.
So
Actually, question 2 is not valid if I select no in question 1. So still it says that I have to make a choice.
Sorry.
So what should I do?
Apologies. Select anything, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
But I wrote on the top there, if you have used Gradescope, because I expected some people have not used it probably. Maybe 30 more seconds. So I think we have almost, let me see, about 60–70% of you have responded. So maybe just 10 more seconds. No, I'm sorry. It's about 50%. 50%.
Maybe most people attendant have not used it, maybe.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah.
Mm.
In fact, yeah, I can see. Okay. Let me end the poll. I think the results of the poll are indicative. So let me just end it. Okay. Let me share the results, if you allow me. So I'm happy to see that, in fact, most of those who are, you see the results?
Yes, I think they should
Okay.
be able to.
Yeah. So in fact, the majority of you, or at least those who filled in the, say again, sorry?
I said only 35% have used it.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah, which is good. At least most of you have not used it, which means that you're interested in knowing more about Gradescope. And I hope that by the end of today's event, we're going to be able to change some of you to become users, inshallah. Okay. And unfortunately, as one of you mentioned, the second question now may not be relevant. In fact, both of the last two questions may not be very relevant since many of you have not used them. But you know, I think the last question indicates that I think the best feature that most of you, just like me, like about Gradescope is that the fact that you can grade now on your tablet. If you have an iPad or you have a laptop computer or whatever, you can just take it. And let me just mention that I just finished the grading for the summer, and I did most of the grading in a cafe. I wouldn't have been able to do that with the paper sheets. So this is one of the features that I really like about Gradescope. I can just carry my tablet device, go anywhere, and just wherever there's an internet connection, I can just grade. So that's clearly, I think, something that a lot of you like. So in today's session, gentlemen, we have three distinguished speakers who will be presenting their experience in using Gradescope. This will be kind of the first part, and then at the end, we'll open the floor for questions and discussions. And I have a couple of points maybe I'd like to ask our speakers to respond to on different aspects of Gradescope. So if you have any questions, maybe you can leave them to the end. Our speakers are Dr. Muhammad Yahya Mahmoud. He's from the Computer Engineering Department. Our second speaker will be Dr. Alauddin Hussein from the EE Department, and Dr. Wasf Al-Khatib. He's from the ICS Department. He's busy, in fact, uploading the grades for the summer, so we'll just leave him aside. Inshallah, he'll join us later. Once he's done with uploading the grades, he'll join us, inshallah, and give his experience. So, Dr. Muhammad, maybe you can start. The floor is yours.
Okay, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. I'm very honored to be presenting today my experience with Gradescope. I started using Gradescope very early on, I think, and let me share my screen. 2015, I guess. Let me share. Okay, so I used it in the very early times when they had bugs before them joining Turnet, and I remember that they had their database key as the email address for the student, and I made a mistake of assigning a student to a different email address. So every other faculty that tried to add that student, he will get a different student name when he used the email address. So Gradescope contacted me to make sure that I didn't to make sure that I have the correct name, and I fixed it. So I started very early on. You can see since 2015, and at that time I was a super user. They gave me all the features for free because I was testing the system. And now, alhamdulillah, the KFUPM participated and bought it. So I have a small demo for you how to add an assignment. I didn't realize that most of the participants did not use Gradescope, so maybe I'm going to modify a little bit on what I'm going to present. So I thought that it will be a good idea to start from something that I had before. So last semester, I was a coordinator for a very huge course, 700 students. This will make Gradescope the most useful, or to be most useful when you have so many students. So I'm going to start, for example, and these are my two sections that I use, that I taught. I will leave adding students to the course to my other colleagues. I'm just going to give you a demo how to add an assignment or a quiz or something like that. So for example, I'm going to click on assignment here. Create a new assignment. It asks me, is it a quiz or an exam, homework? So a quiz or exam, I'm going to pick that one. And let me call it quiz 3 or section 14 test, any name. Then I select the PDF for that quiz. So quiz 3, for example, section 14. I select the empty PDF for the quiz. I upload that. And I have to identify here. If you have more than one grader, you can have, or if you want to grade without knowing the students, you can have, you can enable anonymous grading. And I'm going to upload all the submission myself. You have an option that you ask all the students to upload their submission, especially if it was a homework. And the rubric, I'm going to add it while I'm doing the grading, not before doing the grade. You have the option here. Create an assignment. Now it's going to show me the PDF here, and I'm going to identify. So if you look at my exam, I always put boxes here. I ask the student just to contain their answers to the boxes. So put your name here, your ID here. For this question, put your answer inside the box, and please put the final answer in this area. For this question, put the answer in the box. Don't write outside the box. Don't write at the back of the page. So we have various type of questions here. This is why I picked this assignment. I'm going to identify the name region so it can be recognized by the AI. This is going to be the name region. I'm going to identify the ID region for the system to recognize it later on. Then I add a question. This is a multiple choice question. I'm not using a bubble sheet here, so the student is going to answer. So I want the system to check on this area to pick the answer. Student answer from this area, A, B, C, okay. And I can give the question a very useful name, but for now I'm just going to name it question 1, but you can give it a question about something and so on so. And it has 1 point. Add another question. So question 2, again, it's a multiple choice question. I'm just going to name it question 2 for now. It has 1 point. Question 3, again, it's a multiple choice question. I'm going to name it question 3. Then question 4 should have the answer in this box. So if you noticed, Gradescope, it allows you to go 1 level. So this is question 4. Only 1 level. You cannot have question 4A, but then A-1. You cannot have this one. So you cannot have it that way. So only 1, you can go deeper 1 level. So this is going to be 4.1. Okay, and for this question, I'm just going to give it 2 points, for example. Then I will go 4.2. This is going to be 3 points. And here's the box for. Okay, I'm done with setting up the outline for my quiz. I'm just going to save the outline. Now I scanned all the exam papers. I need to upload them. So I'll select the PDF. This is all the students. Upload. The system is extracting the pages. Should see. A good thing is to know how many students took the exam, so you can tell if you have the correct number of sheets here. Active submissions. You can look at the pages if you want. But because it's one sheet, usually if it's only one sheet, you don't have a problem. But you can have a quick scan to make sure that everything is okay. Okay. Now I have to manage the submission. When I manage the submission, the system will try to map the students from the roster to the student names on the exam sheets. And usually this is not 100% accurate. Yeah, see, these students were mapped automatically, and these students were not mapped automatically. So I can just type any part of the name or any part of the ID. So if I write 7920, I got the student. So you'll spend some time doing this, filling the missing students. They were not recognized automatically by the system, but I'm not going to waste time on this. I'm going to go to the grading. So grade the exam. Let's start grading question number 1, for example. It asks me, it tries to recognize the answers here, okay? I'm not going to grade it individually because I hope the system, the Gradescope can group everything for me. So I'll ask Gradescope to group everything for me, and it asks me, is this a multiple choice question? You can fill any of these. If you have fill in the blank, you can use that. So it didn't succeed in grouping anything. So all questions are ungrouped. 30 ungrouped answers. Let's review the ungrouped answers. I can see the ungrouped answers here. But what I can do here, I can create groups. I know that the correct answer is D. I will just make a group, I call it D. And from that, I'm going to pick all the Ds here. And put all of them here. Then I create another group, wrong, and put everything else in that group. Sometimes the system recognizes and gives you some groups automatically, but it's good that we had this example here. You can group it by. See, now you almost grade that question for 30 students. It's done grading. You just put the rubric for which group is this? Group correct. The answer is correct. Go to the next group. You can write comments here. And I add a rubric -1. Wrong. I'm done grading question number 1. Let's look at this question, for example. Again, I will ask Gradescope to text fill in the blank, for example. Next. Take some time. Okay, it gave me 3 groups. Let me just go back. Usually, I missed something here. Let me go back. Let me test it with the next question. Yeah, you click here in final answer area. If you want to identify the final answer area, you can do this. So this is the final answer area. So if you want to, you can just, if the student gets a correct answer, you give him the full mark. If he gets the wrong answer, you can look at the whole thing and try to give him partial mark. So I forgot to do this for the previous question. This is the final answer area. Okay. Then I ask the system to recognize the questions for me. It's going to give me different categories. And you can notice while the system is doing that, you can move to other things. If this is going to take time, especially if you have a huge number of students, I can just move to the previous question while it's working on that question, and I look at the answers. Okay, so this is blank, this is the wrong answer. In here I can see 16 and 30, which is the correct answer. This one, 16 and 25, partially correct. 16 is correct, 28 is wrong. I have 3 categories here, and I have some ungrouped answers, so I can just click on here, and I confirm that all of these are empty, so they should belong to that group. I can confirm that all of these 16 and 30, I confirm this group, and all of these are 16 and 28, I confirm this group. Then these are the ungrouped questions. See, one of them is 16 and 28, so I can add it to that group. See, 16, 28, 16, 28. I know I don't care about the second number because the first number is the correct number, which is 16. So I'm going, anyone that has 16 at the TP, I'm going to add him to the same group. So he's going to get a partial credit, for example, and so on. You can do this. Okay, and you can add group that, for example, blank, you can make it the wrong, and all the wrong answer, you put them in that group. So doing this, you will be done questioning, grading the exam in no time. Of course, you can grade manually with a paper, with a pen, with a tablet. You can do that. I hope this is clear. Let me go to let me move to a second feature. I'm going to demonstrate this in a course as huge as this one. So, for example, this was for last semester. I had more than 700 students in this course, or 700 after dropping. And this is the final exam. The final exam was a multiple choice. We used bubble sheets for that. So Google provide you with bubble sheet that you can print and give to the student during the exam. And when you fill the bubble sheets, you can have different versions for the same exam. So we created 4 versions of that exam, and you can put the key answer for all the versions. So we had, for example, 29 questions in that exam. For version 1, these are the correct answers. For version B, you're going to have something different because these are different versions of the exam. But what I want to emphasize on here is, for example, for question 1, exact, it has to be 2, and you can set how many points. You can have multiple choice, and some of them will have 1 point, some of them will have 2 points, and so on. Sometimes you discover later on that 2 answers are correct, so you can just go here and make it either or. If a student picks A or C, both of them will get the full mark, for example. Okay, or if you want to put that in your bubble sheet, and if you want to give partial grades for different answers, you can do that, but I don't use partial grade. I usually use exact and either or if I find out at the end that 2 answers are correct. So a student will do that. So after doing this, the student filled the exam, you just upload it. It will be graded easily, but a useful thing is the statistics here. Now, when the faculty prepared the exam, for every question, they write the course learning outcome for that question. So I went and I wrote, okay, question 1 was testing course learning outcome 2.1. Question 2 was testing course learning outcome 1.2, and so on. This is going to be very helpful in the course file. Some of the questions don't test a specific course learning outcome. You don't have to fill it, but for the ones that you know, you can just fill the course learning outcome that you want. You can write anything here, by the way. These are here because I already wrote something. Like if I wrote test, I'm going to create a course learning outcome called test. Okay. Then later on, if I click on anything here, I can see test here. Okay. And after doing this, you will have the statistics for all course learning outcomes. You can download this, and you can use this in your course file. It's a very useful feature. طيب, I think I will do one more tip. Usually in Gradescope, you cannot show the students all their grades. So I use a small trick help them see all their grades. For that, I use mail merging in Office. So I have all the grades in Excel. Let me share the screen. It's not. Nope. Okay. I will share this desktop. This is the bubble sheet that I was talking about that is provided by Gradescope. Okay. So, for example, I have all the grades for the students here in Excel, attendance, quizzes, and everything. So far, I did mail merging, a sheet like this. After merging everything, I had 38 students, so I had 38 of these sheets. So I upload this as an assignment in Gradescope. So let me go back to Gradescope. I upload that as an assignment in Gradescope. And I call it, for example, classwork. Where is it? Yeah, I call it classwork. Again, I will do the same thing, outline, I identify the name region and the ID region, and I don't care about any of this because I'm not going to create anything. Then the rubric, everything is going to be correct. I'm going just to show it to everybody, upload the scans. Then the students will be able to see if the students looked at his assignment. He's going to see the grades for all the courses. There is absent, there is late, detection, quiz 1, quiz 2. So far, this is your grades throughout the semester. Then if the student has a problem and he wants to review, he can ask. In Gradescope, the student can request a regrade request. You enable the regrade request, and the student, you give the student the dates and the times for them to. So you're going to see the students who wants to review something with you, raising a question. I have a problem with assignment so and so. I should get this much grade, and I got that. And I'm going to stop here. I'm over my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. That was very detailed, in a very short, concise time. You gave a very good, I think, review of the whole, tool. Dr. Ala, you there? Yeah, Dr. Ala, please. If you have questions, you can leave them until the end. Inshallah, we'll open the floor for questions. Dr. Ala, we cannot hear you. I think maybe you're muted or.
Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, I will continue some of the tips after the excellent presentation presented by Dr. Mohammed for the demo. First of all, we wanted to know what is the Gradescope is used for. Actually, Gradescope can be used to allow us grade paper-based exams, quizzes, bubble sheets, and homework. And we saw a couple of minutes ago with Dr. Mohammed how he did the quiz and also the bubble sheet. And sometimes this bubble sheet feature will be very useful when we have a large number of students, similar to his class of 700 students. Also, there is a feature in Gradescope that can be used with in the programming assignments that it can do auto-grade the programming assignments using something called auto-grader. I didn't use it myself because I don't have programming assignments, but I believe that computer engineering and computer science can find this very beneficial when they are using the Gradescope. And the last point is that we can use it similar to what we have in Blackboard to create online assignments, and the students can answer directly on Gradescope. In other words, we don't need to upload papers or something like that. It will be online, similar to what we have with the with the Blackboard. I will talk about some of the points. First of all, how can we create the roster or adding the student roster to the Gradescope? To do this, we have, as you can see here, 4 different methods, or like 3 methods, either manually using a single student or multiple using CSV file like this. As you can see here, I can add a single user in the roster for my class. And in this case, I just need to fill the information of this student. This will be useful only when you are adding a TA, for example. You need to only to add like a grader, a teaching assistant in your class, so you wanted to add him like individual. Or if I have many students, I can create a CSV file where I will have the IDs, full name, email, and I can import it, whatever the size is. The second method, which I prefer now, is linking your roster, the Gradescope, with the Blackboard. In this case, if the Blackboard has been updated, you can still do the synchronization again to keep to keep it in sync. The last point, you can have self-enrollment. You can allow the students to add themselves to the course by giving them a unique ID for your course. Let me review these points. First of all, for linking Blackboard with Gradescope. As you can see here, or let me have this shared. Oh, sorry. Let me share the whole screen. Yeah, screen share. I don't know if it's, oh, okay. Can you see the Blackboard now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, excellent. So in your, you will find in your Blackboard account in each of your classes, as you can see here, Gradescope. Once you click Gradescope, yeah, it is just loading. Oh, it's linked already, like here to this course. Let me have another course. Whatever, I will have this course, for example. Gradescope. So as you can see here, you will be asked, do you want to have a new Gradescope course or it's existing? If you already created the course before in Gradescope, you can choose existing and choose it, whatever the course you have. If it's new, you can just have new and link the course. Once you do that, you can fill here the number. I prefer to have the number similar to what we have at like the regular here, for example. And this is senior design project, and the third semester, which will be the fall 2023, department engineering, for example, here, and so on. So those are the basic settings. And as you can see here, there is an option for allow students to enroll via course entry. If you press this, you will have an entry code where the students can enroll themselves like automatically. I will not do this for now. I don't want to have it. I did it this one for this course, for example, as you can see here for the roster. You can see here that those are the 80 students registered in that course. If I wanted to resync, maybe after the beginning of the semester, there is more students, you can redo the resyncing, sync the rostering again, and so on. Oh, you don't need to have this. If you use this, it will send an email to the students that you have been added to this Gradescope course. If you don't want to inform them for now, you just ignore it. Yeah. Okay, so this for that point, and also you can, for the entry point, as we just said, if you look here in the dashboard, in the course, there is no like entry, there is no code here. Okay, sorry, here. No, that's okay. If I went to the course settings, allow students to enroll via course entry code, update. Yeah, in this case, you will find here the entry code, like this is the entry code where the students can use it. So this is regarding the roster and how the students can be added to the like roster. Also, for the Gradescope, we have different assignment types. Like the exams, quizzes, homework, problem set, and those are the mostly common used. The difference between those, that the default for the exam quiz, for example, the instructor will upload the student's work, although you can change it to the students. And the default for the homework, the students will upload their work, and again, you can change it to the instructor in the settings. For this to work, whether this or that, you have to have your template similar to what Dr. Muhammad presented, and I will discuss some small tips about this in a minute. And like with the KFUPM subscription, we can have the bubble sheet and also the programming assistant, like programming assignments. Also, we have the online assignments, which I use it many times, like for some exams, especially in lab and so on. I use this online assignments. Now, let me discuss some of the tips that we can use. First of all, like whenever, like you have to make sure that the student name, region, and student ID are two separate fields, similar to what presented by Dr. Muhammad, and it's better that they are horizontally aligned. Don't have them on top of each other. And when you are creating the region, don't overlap them. Make sure that there is no overlap in your selection. I mean in the selection, not of course in the area itself. We saw how Dr. Muhammad chose the area for the name ID, for the ID and for the name. Those areas shouldn't be overlapped, otherwise we will have some problems. Now, like it's better that the students record their name on the paper the way it is recorded in the Gradescope for better recognition. However, the AI can still work and it can recognize most of the names, and maybe from 30 students you can find 3 or 4 like has some problems which you can do them manually. Now, like for the template itself, I have like a tip here that it's better that you use the same template that is used by the students. What I mean by that, when you have your quiz or your quiz, mainly, let us talk about quizzes and exams. Don't use your PDF generated file from the Word as the template and scan the student's work and upload it. it's better that you do scan for everything. In other words, you have a blank quiz or a blank exam, scan it as a blank with the student's work and use this as a template. The reason for that, to make sure it will match the areas correctly. In other words, if you are using the exam center, they are using this long sheets. And from your computer, you will have the A4, for example, the PDF, when there will be a difference in the margins and all of this stuff. So it's better that use the same copy. Make like the name and ID regions big enough to allow for a student handwriting. Sometimes if you have them small, the student will be outside of the box and it can give some problems in the recognition. Also for the assignments, usually we are asking the students to upload their work. So my recommendation here that you ask the students to use the Gradescope mobile app for the scanning and monitoring. It will be something similar to what you can see here. So this is a Gradescope app. Of course, it will not be for the instructor. It's for the student's own. He can monitor the requested homeworks, do scanning, and upload them similar to what I have here, and also ask the students to link the questions to the scanned pages for easy grade. In other words, you saw Dr. Mohammed when he was doing the grading, grade question 1, 2, 3, and so on. If we are doing this with the homework and the students didn't link the question to the scanned page, you will find that the question is empty. Of course, you can still browse through the student's work, but it will be inconvenient. And for myself, sometimes it gave problems with the grader. If I have the grader for the homework, he said, I found him give 0 for a couple of students. He said, I cannot find any submission. When I reviewed myself, I found that students, they didn't link the question to the scanned papers. That's why the grader didn't find it. So I instructed them to go like browse it manually, but again, it's inconvenient. Of course, after grading, the student can see the grading, the graded assignment, and if you have any comments and so on, he can see it. Also for the rubric, sometimes I found it convenient. If you use for student visibility, show applied rubric item only. That, if the default is show all rubric items, sometimes this make a confusion to the students. The students can, like, for example, you have 7 items for the rubric, and only 1 applied for the students. Sometimes he is thinking that all of them applied to him and said, okay, I answered this part and it's written here. Of course, it's written, but you didn't penalize him for that. So sometimes it's better to show applied rubric items only. For the regrading, this is one of the nice features of the Gradescope. However, sometimes it will be like can cause a headache if you leave it open to the end of the semester. So it's better that you have it open for 1 week or so, and you close it either by, you can specify the time and date, or you can disable it manually for the course. Otherwise, maybe at the end of the semester, you will find that some students asking for regrading for the first assignment. Finally, to conclude here, some of the new features that we have with Gradescope. First of all, the organized exam versions. This is one of the greatest features that has been added recently to the Gradescope. As you can see here, let me back here, assignments. Oh, sorry. Where is it? Dashboard. I can
click assignments, Doctor. Click assignments.
Yeah, I cannot see. Yeah. So in assignments, as you can see here, organize exam versions. This is very convenient. Sometimes you have 2 or 3 versions for the same assignment. And before, the only option that we have was Gradescope to have them as 3 separate exams. And so a third of the students will have grades and 2/3 will not score zeros because they have they will be in other versions and so on. Now we can sort of like organize it by merging those. Each one of them will have its own rubric, its own grading. Everything is the same, is separate. However, you can choose for version A one of those exams and version B, and you can add versions if you want. Still, what I found it still inconvenient here that you can apply this only for instructor uploaded assignments. If it's uploaded by the students, you cannot use it for that. And if it's online, you cannot use it for the online as well. Hopefully, it can be done in future versions with Gradescope. So this is the organized exam version. This is one of the great things that they did in this version. Also, you can now do annotation with emoji, and of course, we have more colors in grading. Here, for example, let me here assignment. Okay, I don't have assignments here. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I don't have here. It's okay. No problem. Also, you can, there is some updates to the anonymous grading. If you choose to have anonymous grading, especially if you want the homework to be graded by the grader, in this case, there will be a black box over the name and the ID areas in the assignment. And again, this can be very helpful, and you can view the statistics by sections. So those are some of the new features that we have. So like, thank you. I don't want to take much time, and I will be like very happy to answer any question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ala. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Okay. Dr. Rossi, you're available now?
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Yep. Uploaded the grades?
Uploaded and reviewed.
How many failed?
Alhamdulillah, none.
Yeah, like the floor is yours.
Jazakumullah khair. Let me share my screen. Now, which screen do I want? I think I want screen 2. Has it been shared or not yet?
No. I think maybe Dr. Ala, you have to unshare. Okay. Yeah. We see.
Yeah.
Now it is shared?
Yes.
Yes, we can see.
طيب بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. طبعا my colleagues approximately يعني did not leave much for me, but and I'll try to concentrate on things that were not discussed or things that were not mentioned. Now, originally, since we did not know how this experience sharing, it was not kind of divided in the beginning. I thought that I will start by talking about Gradescope, which I know now that you have an idea that Gradescope does not change the way we do our exams. So if it happens to you in your mind that are my exams going to be online or using computers because I'm using Gradescope, well, you have just saw that we are actually grading paper exams. Am I going to be restricted in the type of questions I give in order to be able to use Gradescope? And a big no. You can still ask the same type of questions that you would do if there is no Gradescope or there is no other tool. Do I need special stationery or exam paper formats in order to efficiently use Gradescope? Again, in general, the answer is no. Of course, the bubble sheet is an exception, but other than that, as you can see, yani, it was all our regular, day-to-day exams. So in that sense, and this is actually what I loved about Gradescope. Gradescope is a tool, not a master. It doesn't dictate, it doesn't dictate on you, the way to do your test or do your exams. No, it basically facilitates the grading of these exams and plus some other things. So let's talk about some of the main features about Gradescope. Now, as you can see, as far as grading is concerned, it is a web-based tool that you can grade, using laptop, tablet, or mobile. So even if you are traveling, you don't have to take, papers with you. You just have your laptop and just make sure that you have an internet connection, and you can grade from wherever you are. There is no save or submit button. Sometimes you are afraid when we are doing something, if I didn't hit the save or the submit, my grading disappears. No, it actually immediately takes whatever you do on that rubric, that the ones that you have seen in the, especially in the first presentation by Dr. Muhammad, you see that it will be reflected on the server. Grading in Gradescope is transparent to students. Dr. Alauddin doesn't want to confuse students by only restricting the rubrics that are applied, to the students. I did that in the beginning, but later on, I thought that no, it's better actually to give him everything, because in his graded paper, you will see that it will only include, it will mark, the rubrics that have been applied to the student. And the reason why I think that it's an advantage for the student to look at the rest of the rubrics is that if he or she thinks that she actually deserves more points, that maybe it's not, losing 2 points, it's actually losing 1 point. Although, as Dr. Ala mentioned, sometimes, regrade is a headache, but to tell you the truth, and I believe it's one of the major, features of Gradescope is this regrade request. Inshallah, I will talk about it a little bit later. By the way, you can write LaTeX in the rubric, so you can write something like this, this summation, and you can also write equations. Basically, you can also write, italics, bold font. It's kind of LaTeX as far as the rubric, write-up is concerned. You can change the grading guide for one student, and it will immediately apply for all students. And again, I actually did it this summer. In one of my quizzes, I think I deducted 1 point, and the students convinced me that, well, 1 point is too much. Maybe it should be 0.5. What should I do? Should I go and mark each and every paper in the quiz? No, I just come here and I will change this. Well, this is minus 0.5. Let's say, for example, I want to change it to -1. I will just make it -1. Once I make it -1 for this student, it will apply for all other students. So this is one of the very nice features of Gradescope. Grading, you can still have special adjustments to specific students. And I'll talk about, rubric development. Rubric development is the most, difficult thing that you will face when you use Gradescope. And I will talk about it later on. So for example, you put the rubrics, number 1, number 2, number 3, and then you see something in which none of them apply. Now, what can you do in this case? Well, below there is, submission specific adjustments, whether you want to increase or decrease. Okay, and you can put the comment here. You can put the comment here. In fact, you can reuse the comments. The Gradescope saves the comments that you write. So if you write a general comment that may apply to more than one student, you don't have to rewrite the same comment again and again and again. No. You can just come to this drop-down list, find the comment and click on it, and there you go. It's exactly the same comment, and you can put the point adjustment. Like, you can quickly review previously graded questions. How many times, when we graded something and then we graded another paper which was similar, and I thought that, well, I forgot how much did I deduct? Was it 1 or 2 or half? And you would like to go back. Now, going back with the physical world, it will consume a lot of time. However, in Gradescope, you can actually do it very easily. And for that, let me try kind of a, let's see if I have Gradescope open. Yes. Okay. Can you see it now? Can you see my?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So now let's see, for example, if I go to this quiz 2, and let's say, for example, this is grade submissions. Of course, everything is graded. So let me go to convert the following while loop into a for loop, right? And let's take any student. Now, assume that I would like to see students who had a mistake in the while loop condition. And I would like to compare it to, for example, the current paper that I have. Then what I can do is, there is this thing here. So I will right click and open link in a new tab. So it will open it in a new tab. And now you will see a list of all students who made a mistake in that part that I marked in that part. Although, maybe for the previous student, it was not marked, but it will give it to you. Now, what I can do is I can just open link in a new tab, 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 and I will come here, and now I can see, each one of them. As you can see, there's a problem here in the condition, there is a problem here in the condition, and there is a problem here in the condition. So this is one of.
You will have to label it, Dr. Fah.
Say that again.
So to go back to these exam papers and to that specific mistake, you will have to label the mistake so that Gradescope can detect it, right?
Yeah. It's basically the rubrics that you have used. I don't have to label anything. It's basically the same rubric. As you can see, it's exactly the same rubric. I just go there and I click on that that icon, and it will give me a listing of all the students who had this rubric, being chosen or being marked, right?
So basically, I'm sorry, because I'm new to Gradescope. I do understand how it works with multiple choice question, but now with this code fragment, is it going to detect if there is no for loop? So that's a mistake. It's a while because it's a while loop.
No, it doesn't detect anything. You are the grader, not Gradescope. Gradescope does not grade for you.
Okay, so I'll have to label that this is a mistake.
Yeah, and for example, the labeling here. For example, here, for example, I didn't do any label. Here, for some reason, I thought, by the way, using the wheel in the mouse, I can do this. And by the way, looking at some of the papers using Gradescope might even be much better than the original paper. So as you can see here, I marked it as a mistake. And this is another feature that you made me now talk about. The rubric here is mistake in the while loop condition. I didn't specify what was the mistake, right? I didn't specify what, I just used this. But I wanted to add more information to the student to mention exactly where was that mistake in. And if you look here, this is actually a comment that I joined with the rubric, or that I attached to the rubric. And this is one of the new features of Gradescope, is that you can put the rubrics as general as you wish, but as far as if you would like to have even more specific comments, you don't have to change the rubric for that. No, you can attach a comment, and the comment will be, attached to the rubric. As you can see here, for example, mistake in the while loop condition, you can see here there is one annotation. So it actually marked that, I have annotated this mistake in addition, to the use of the rubric. This is basically great. Okay, right. So let me now go back to the presentation. Let's see if I can. Okay. So we can quickly review previously graded questions. Right. Again, and this is a very nice feature. I don't know if we have any faculty, any of my colleagues from the physics or the chemistry or the math who have all their midterm and final exams, for the lower level courses as multiple choice questions. Didn't you have ever, come to your mind that I wish that we can, give a problem solving question to all these students and grade them in a good amount of time? Actually, Gradescope helps you with that. Multiple graders can access the same assignment simultaneously, and they can grade. Now, let me show you what we do, for example, what we did in the midterm. Now, we didn't have any multiple choice question in the final exam, because the final was actually on Thursday, and today was the posting of the letter grades. There was actually no time for us to have programming question in the final, but we had a programming question in the midterm. So the midterm was 2 parts: multiple choice and programming. And in fact, in the programming, if you look here, we had two questions, right? We had one problem, which was basically mainly for the if statement, and then we had another problem for to test loops and so on. So this is basically the page that we use, and just in case, we made sure that we use enough space for each question. So now let me go to review grades, and let me show you who are the graders. Well, let's see. Let's look at grade is it grade submissions? Yes. Look at, for example, this one. This question. This is the second question. One was 10 out of 100. The other one was 20 out of 100, and 70 was for the multiple choice. Now, these are the graders. So as you can see, each person, whoever graded whatever, it will show his name. Not only that, but later on, for example, if there was a regrade request done by the student, it will go to the same, grader who graded that thing. So you don't have to wait, for example, in the time of ICS 103, we will all sit in ICS 105, and we have to grade at the same time, and it will be restricted. No, everybody from his home, and they can grade exactly the same question. Actually, the Gradescope software takes care of distributing them. If you want, one idea was, for example, if you don't trust, try to maybe overriding a grading of another colleague. You can say, well, I'm going to start from 1. You're going to start from 20. The third will start from 40, and so on and so forth. But to tell you the truth, and I don't see any problem with that. The only thing is, whenever you go to a question that you would like to grade, just make sure that you, for example, using the arrow buttons, go to the next paper and then come back to that paper and see if there is any grading. If you don't see there is no grading, khalas, you're locked. You can actually start grading. But this is one of the really very nice features of Gradescope. Now, yeah, so Dr. Ala talked about homework assignments. Gradescope has a nice mobile app that allows it. And another thing which is very nice also about Gradescope is that it allows for individual and group assignments. And that's why in many cases, and I didn't use it much in this summer, but like activities in the class, I can actually use group assignments. And of course, the groups are based on whatever students sit. It's not like prefix. And it will also, before this attendance tool that we are using now with the QR code, and I used to use those activities, for the attendance. It's a great way of promoting classwork and active learning in the class. Now, as also instructors submit the homeworks, submit exams and quizzes. Right. Dr. Ala also talked a little bit about the bubble sheet. And here, by the way, this is an example of a bubble sheet that I used in one of the quizzes. And you can see that there is only one column. And this was the invention of Abu Amr, Dr. Husni Muhtasab. He taught me this. You don't have to really, because the original bubble sheet by Gradescope is actually 2 pages that contains 200 questions. Now, for quizzes, usually we have maybe at most 10 or 20 questions. Why do you need to put all those 4 columns in this page? So you can actually, play with it. You can hide these 3 columns, and still Gradescope will catch, the 10 questions that you have marked in the bubble sheet. This is another invention by Abu Amr. We can actually have a mail merge. In fact, inshallah, I'll try to avail these templates and these Word documents in the inshallah, there will be an upcoming workshop in the first week of classes. You can actually put the names using the the font that Gradescope promotes in order to increase the accuracy of matching students to their papers, or the accounts to their papers. You can actually put the name, the ID, the section, although we don't use it and we don't need it actually. Once the ID actually determines the section of the student. This is, by the way, the version, it was pre-bubbled. Okay, I hope we don't have anybody from the grading center at KFUPM. He's gonna hate me for this. And here there are information about, because we put the students in organized seatings. This actually contains the seating information. So this is the partition 8. No, it's not partition 8. I think it's partition 5, column 5, and then H is the row. And C actually is the version. You can see the version here, C, and also it's bubbled here as C. We used to print them in order, and before the final. Actually, we came like I was there at 7:10. I had the answer sheets with my colleagues. We were putting it one by one, one after the other in order. This is a great feature of Gradescope. طيب. Dr. Muhammad mentioned this, so I'm not gonna talk about it. Another nice feature is that rubrics can be grouped. By the way, there are many shortcuts. Like for example, when you, if I want to like mark mistakes in reading the input, you see here number 2. If this was not a group, if I just press number 2, it will choose it. So it actually promotes grading quickly. So if you know, for example, which one to apply, for example, assume that the answer was correct. You just put 1 and then you put Z. It will take you to the next ungraded question. 1Z, next ungraded question. So you save all the time of taking the paper, putting it back, opening the right page. All this overhead is gone. Right. So now, if you want to do this fast, you only have from 0 to 9. Actually, it starts from 1 to 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4 until 9, and then it will go to 0. Now, if you add more rubrics, it will be blank. It will not be assigned to a number. Now, in order to get over this, you can actually group rubrics. And the way they did it, mashallah, it seems they had a lot of thought about it. So now, for example, number 2 is now grouped. Mistake in reading the input. Mistake in reading the input. Now here, this group, it says here select 1, which means that it's only one of these mistakes. Okay, I cannot choose more than 1. And you can see here, if I want to choose a mistake, now I'm using the Q, W, E, R, which are next to each other. So now, if I notice a mistake in reading the input, what I will do is I will press the 2, and then I will go to Q, W, E, R, which are next to each other. So again, this will make grading faster. Right. So this is select 1. Can I select more than 1? Yes. You can actually also select many. So for example, and by the way, these are real examples from the midterm. Mistake when consumption was greater than 100 less than or equal to 200. Mistake in specifying the condition. Mistake in calculating the cost. So now, if somebody missed both of them, I will press 4, and then I will press Q and W, and they will be chosen immediately. Okay. Grouping rubrics is actually a very nice way of not having a very long list that you cannot follow. It seems I exceeded a lot of my time, so let me try to. Rubrics can be imported. You don't have to rewrite the rubrics. You can actually import them from other sections, from previous places. Regrade requests. Now, students can submit regrade requests, and as Dr. Ala mentioned, it's better to put an end date. And I may add, it's better to start responding to them after the end date. Once what happened was, one of the students, I went back and forth. I said, no, you cannot, you're not, you don't deserve, and then he will respond back arguing. In order to stop this, you can just start the regrade or processing the regrade request after the due date. And if you remember, when Dr. Imam gave his presentation, there was one column at the end with regrade requests. I was surprised, they were all red, and they were not. I tried to find one in mine, but I couldn't. So this is much better than sending an email, losing the email in the tons of emails. Always, when you open your Gradescope, you will see a red flag that there is a regrade request that you have not responded to yet. This is again very good. It promotes learning by assessment. I know that students can take the following attitude. Okay, so let me put a regrade request. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it will not hurt. Now, and to me, I don't mind that. Why? Because I can immediately see, because I always, when I say regrade request, I tell them, you need to explain to me why is your answer deserves more points, specifically related to the rubrics. This is one thing. Another thing, if it was a programming question, I ask them, please type the code, so I don't have to type it. Type the code, if you think that your code works, type it in the regrade request. So in that case, all what I need to do is just copy paste that code, run it, make sure that it is either exactly the same as the write-up, or if there were, you know, few missings here and there, but if the right idea is correct, then of course I will give the whole mark. So the regrade request, in my opinion, it actually promotes learning by assessment. Now, students, when they go back and they see all the rubrics, now they try to, you know, extract as many points as they can. And this will make them go and try to, you know, review their answer, make sure, well, where did I make the mistake? Or maybe this is another way of doing things. And I believe that the regrade requests in Gradescope is a great, it really promotes learning by assessment. Blackboard integration with Gradescope allows synchronizing grades in both platforms in a couple of clicks. So no need for a medium or an intermediary like Microsoft Excel. Now you can go from Gradescope and you can upload there. Ability to automatically grade programming assignments. I have been trying to convince Dr. Muhammad Amr or Dr. Balah, because they used the automatic programming, but until now, I hope they will listen to me and you know, do a workshop there. Okay, very easy to prepare samples for the course file. You know, when we went to the review grades, you can actually sort by grade, and then you know, choose you know, the lowest one from the middle and the highest. You can you know, right click to 3 different tabs, and then you can download a graded copy. It will download a graded copy. So the work and the rubrics that are applied. This is, by the way, an experience that I had. I downloaded the best, average, and worst of 2 assignments, 3 quizzes, a midterm, a final, and I made a mistake. I copied the midterm best on quiz 1 best and saved quiz 1 best under midterm best. So I need to also fix this mistake. I did all this in 26 minutes for all the samples, best, average, and worst. This is was hinted by, also mentioned by Dr. Ala, the multiple versions. So, for example, the multiple choice, it already has a bubble sheet. You can have up to 4 or 5 versions. For problem solving, you can actually divide your class into like 2, you know, A and B, 2 different questions, and you will upload them as 2 different Gradescope assignments in the beginning, but at the end, you can actually join them by what they call versioning. Okay, so now quiz 2 problem solving is has, you know, these 2. It didn't affect your rubrics for either one of them. Before this, by the way, I used to have kind of general rubrics to take care of the versions, but now you don't have to. And of course, Blackboard, once you have the problem solving part and the MCQ part, you can create a calculated column in Blackboard that will give you the total for the quiz. Online assignments, I use them in some activities. We talked about adding comments. Some general tips about using Gradescope. معلش, أنا seems took much of the time. Do not use a cover page, especially for things that students will upload, because sometimes they might miss it, and it might, it might cause an inconvenience. Print exams double-sided, save trees. If you give the papers one-sided, some students may write on the back and you might miss it. Now, I really don't care much about that, because the regrade request will tell me if I missed it, you know, in the regrade, the students will tell me, but it's an inconvenience. Just give enough space for each question. Ask students to write their names as they appear in Blackboard in order to increase the accuracy. I used to use, you know, high, like 300 DPI and high level or high resolution, but actually there is no need for that. 200 DPI seems more than enough. Medium resolution, color, not black and white, color. Do image enhancements like increased sharpness, darkness, and contrast. They produce reasonable images to grade. And as you can see, the zoom in, zoom out can actually make you see things that you might not be even able to see in the original paper. Spend time in designing your rubrics, especially if more than one grader will grade a single question. This is the most challenging part of using Gradescope. How can we convert our subjective, our semi-subjective grading that is in our minds? How can we make it more objective on the rubrics? I think this is the most important part. What I usually do, I will start grading few papers and develop rubrics accordingly, changing them, adding. Once I feel that the rubrics are quote unquote, you know, objective enough, then I will share it with my other colleagues to start grading the same question. Use rubric grouping when the number is high. Use negative scoring. Don't use positive scoring. In my opinion, using negative scoring is better, because you can go back and see the students who lost certain points for a certain rubric. That will be easier in negative scoring than in positive scoring. And I apologize for the time. Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you, Dr. Wasfi. Thank you so much for the great tips. Just not to keep the audience longer, maybe we'll open the floor for questions. And I have maybe a question, if you allow me. Let me start with that question. I think I've heard this from a couple of faculty members who were kind of hesitating in using Gradescope over the past year. There's certainly an overload in scanning the, let's say, the exams and putting them on Gradescope. Is it worth the, let's say, are the benefits of Gradescope worth the overhead that you've spent? What do you think, gentlemen, all of you?
Wallahi, it is worth it. Let me tell you the last experience that we had in the final exam for ICS 104. We finished the exam around 10:15. I took all the papers. There were 377 bubble sheets. I took the papers. I scanned them. And that was, I think I left 10:20 or 10:35. Okay. Before before I went for Dhuhr prayer, the grades were published for the students. And especially for course file samples. For course file samples, I think it is really worth every minute. And inshallah, it doesn't take that much time. Maybe I will talk about, you know, the best policies, or the best thing to do as far as scanning in the workshop, inshallah.
Okay, thank you.
Also, we can use the photocopiers. Myself, I'm using the photocopier in the E department, and it's very fast in the scanning process.
Mm-hmm. What about Dr. Muhammad? What are you using?
We have fast scanners, the photocopier, and we have fast scanners in the department. It scans very fast. I will add, if you have only 3 students in a graduate course, 5 students, maybe you don't need, but other than that, it makes your life much easier. It's definitely worth the time.
Okay, great. Dr. Hisham, you're raising your hand.
Hey, السلام عليكم. يعطيكم العافية. الصراحة أنا apologize, I was in and out because I was attending a lot of meetings at the same time. But Gradescope is one of the great stuff that I used, and it makes me more efficient, and really I can publish grades fast. لكن في بعض tips and techniques, maybe you talked about them, but I'm not really sure. لكن what I found in the multi-version issue, Now I can create a multi-version and then I can join them, but that will be in the final stage. Yani when they can pull all the scores together of all versions and give me statistics and everything. Like what I found out, let's say I have 2 versions, I have to grade each version separately. And I have version A, I have to grade it, but then I have to go back and grade again version B separately. I cannot put them all together. And sometimes grouping is very amazing and it makes you more efficient in grading this stuff. Is there a way I can do the grouping of different versions into one in the grading process, not in the pulling of scores and statistics? Am I clear? Well, the question is confusing.
I think اتفضل دكتور علاء اتفضل.
Dr. Ala, you wanted to say something?
No, I'm not the one who
okay.
طيب, now here the problem is if you want to do it while grading, then I'm assuming that you are going to use the same rubrics for both versions, huh?
Yeah, I import from the version A the rubrics and I grade.
No, but once you say I'm going to import, then you are talking about a different assignment.
لا بس I have to import. No option, I have to import.
يعني okay, well, actually you can also import from the same assignment if you have another question and you want to use the same rubrics in the same assignment, you can also import. يعني I made a mistake here, but the problem is if you have 2 versions, then you have different questions. ولا you have the same questions.
Yeah, the same questions, لكن the order of them are different. يعني مثلا question 1 in version A, it corresponds to question 8 in version B.
And is this multiple choice or
لا not multiple choice. يعني ممكن يعني mix, not necessary يعني.
Okay. Well, I don't know how to do that يعني while grading. I don't know how to do that, but the way I think about it is if you make one assignment, you get the first version. Now make the second assignment and just import all the rubrics of the first assignment, basically reordering them in the second assignment. فمثلا if in version 2 question 1 was actually question 5 in version 1, when I go to the import, I will go to version 1 and I will go to question 5 and I will import
yes,
the rubrics.
This is exactly what I do. Like my question was in grouping. لأنه sometimes when you group question is much faster. I group for version A, طيب, and I do the grading. Now I have to do the same thing in question in B and I have to regroup again. يعني I cannot do it at once. So I have to duplicate my effort.
What do you mean regroup? What do you mean regroup?
يعني مثلا group correct answers and partially correct answers and incorrect answers, for example.
I don't think it is doable now because Gradescope assumes you have different versions, different question, not permutation of the same question.
Okay.
You can tell it this is the same question in a different location, and I don't see that feature there. Perhaps
this is exactly what you mentioned. Yeah. Same
I
question.
agree. It's not doable. It's not doable for sure. At least for the current version, it's not doable, and I cannot see any method that we can.
Unless you are using online assignment. Are you using online assignment?
لا.
If you're using online assignment, the Gradescope will do the permutation for you automatically, and the grading will be easy for you.
لا, I do the scanning. The same stuff.
I didn't see that feature because if that's there, you have to identify that these are the same question in different versions, and I didn't see that feature.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions, gentlemen?
Dr. Yahya.
Yes, assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for this very important session. Now, Dr. Wasfi, you mentioned that you were able to finish the grading before Dhuhr prayer. So it took you to grade programming questions.
No, almost... this is final, for only multiple choice.
Okay, but for
this is only multiple choice. Yani from 10:30 a.m. to 10:40 to 11:40. I received the, it was published. Dr. Abu Amr, Dr. Hussein Muhtasab, he entered the 4 versions We had 4 versions of the exam. He entered the keys, and the students received their marks before Iqama.
So, mashallah. So you had programming questions in the midterm, right?
In the midterm, yes, we did.
So how much time it took you to finish the grading?
I think between 4 to 6 days, if I'm not mistaken.
And
including
the average
the weekend, including the weekend.
And the average number of hours per day is like 3-4 hours.
I would think it is 3-4 hours for the for per grader, not per day.
Depends on the base of the grader. So if you have a grader who did not start grading yet, he took 2 days off. Everybody's going to because, for example, you give every grader, for example, 50 questions to grade, or 100 papers to grade. It depends on him.
Okay. It also, by the way, it also depends on, you know, the question that you put and the rubrics that you use. If you use nice, you know, that's why I'm saying, yani, the most challenging part is coming with objective rubrics. If your rubrics are very, you know, quote unquote objective, then it will not even take time. Yani, it will be maybe 1 minute or less. Well, you know, 1.5 minutes, for example, for a programming question per paper.
And I have a question here, because I used to grade also in ICS 103, and we used to get together in one room on one table, and then we start grading. And the coordinator used to be very close, so whenever there is a new variation, we can talk with him. Now, since it's a decentralized setup with Gradescope, how do you communicate through Gradescope? For example, if there is this new variation in one of the programming question, and I know I can always call the coordinator, but is there a way where I can post a message, and that message maybe can be approved by the coordinator, and then Gradescope will propagate that message to all the graders?
Actually, the messaging is the rubrics themselves. Yani, we might, and I think it happened, we communicate on Teams, and if one thinks that we need to add one more rubric, if everybody agrees, خلاص, he will just add that rubric in the in Gradescope, and it will be reflected on everybody. You don't need to have this chatting ability also within Gradescope, because as Dr. Muhammad mentioned, everybody will be grading at his own time. We will not be grading at the same time.
Okay, and basically one last question, if you don't mind. So everything has to be reflected in the rubric. So any annotation done by the grader, this is only for himself, right?
For the student, if he wants to add some annotations, I'm not sure if, for example, your annotations will appear with me. I don't know, yani. Like, what I'm pretty sure of is whatever I annotate, if I would like to annotate this again, I will see it in the drop-down list.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Muhammad Akimaya.
Yes, thank you for all the presenters for the very enlightening presentations. I have 2 questions. So the first one, I noticed that most of the samples that you've given me, it's all about very precise answer, very exact answer. Now I'm in the business school, so I mean, if as simple as a definition question, for example, what is, for example, data analytics? So I can see that, figuring out the word would not be a problem, but what about, grading them? Is it doable on Gradescope, or does it really depend on, the rubric? Because what I'm actually asking in the assessment is about the, what student understanding in the whole sentence. That's the first question. The second one, taking it even further.
That's the question. Okay, so for that you're going to be grading manually, right? As if you are grading.
Right, of course, yes.
As if you are grading a physical paper, you are going to read the student's answer, and based on that, you are going to to apply a rubric or add a rubric, especially for that student. So
Right.
it will not be different than grading paper. The main benefit will be you will know for which part you deducted how many points. So you will apply the same thing for all the students. So you will not have the issue of taking off half a point for the same mistake and taking off 1 point for another student. It will be the same for all the students, but again, it will be like grading manual physical papers, but on a tablet.
Right, but the gain that I see from using Gradescope is that you can group the answers.
It's not applicable to all the questions. So this is one of the examples that you cannot apply that to. You can just make grouping and all the blank questions, put them in one group and grade them as wrong. Then for every other ungrouped question, you grade them manually. Assume you have 100 students, 25 of them left that part blank. You put them in one category, 0. And for the other 75 students, you grade them manually on a tablet or on the computer or whatever.
So basically
Nice.
what Dr. Muhammad is mentioning is that the grouping of answers is only, you know, feasible when you are looking for, like, for example, fill in the blank for one word, or, you know, the one he showed with A, B, C, D, E. In that case, yes, you can use grouping. But if you have, for example, a definition, definitely I will not group definitions. I will just choose, you know, grade individually, and I will grade them individually.
Okay, but I can still use some sort of like a keyword in which automatically, oh, if you have this keyword, obviously, you know, in all of the definitions, there's always some sort of keyword, right? So if I use keyword, I mean, I can group them based on that, but just based on one particular word, but
again, you're
nothing
group
else.
them manually then, because
Yeah.
it will not read the keywords for you. If you have
I see.
Yeah, you have to group
Right.
them manually.
Okay. So I guess, you know, that also answers my second question, which my second question is about, you know, is there really any gain if I'm trying to ask open-ended questions? So obviously, at the end of the day, I'm just going to have to grade them all manually. There's no difference with, you know, doing it by, you know, with the paper itself.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
The main difference is it will be fair, because the amount of points for every rubric will be the same. And if somebody has a regrade request, you will either way, you are going to benefit using Gradescope. Even if you are going to grade as if you are grading paper, again, regrade request, the student will request a regrade, and you go to that student specifically, read his answer, then again, you will benefit a lot. But while grading, you will be as if you are grading a physical paper.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions, gentlemen? Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to thank our three speakers, Dr. Wasfi, Dr. Ala, and Dr. Muhammad, for their valuable insight. And
can I respond to a last comment?
Sure.
There was a comment in the chat.
He says, I think Gradescope is not that efficient with written quiz exam, especially for questions with different methods of solving. Same answer as we.
No, to the contrary, and I disagree. It is actually very efficient, because you can look at the answer, whether you use. By the way, if you make a mistake in grading, that's fine. Make the mistake in grading; it will come to you in the regrade, right? So that's why I really don't mind making mistakes in grading. But even more important is you are grading the same question for all the papers at once. So after grading 10 or 15 questions, from looking at the write-up, and you actually kind of memorize, you know, the model answer. Choosing the rubrics will become very quick, and using the Z button to go to the next ungraded question. And I think it is much faster than physical papers, you know, going through the papers one by one.
Okay. Thank you for the answer. Dr. Hisham, you have another comment or question?
Yeah. Dr. Rosa, you mentioned in your notes that you don't need more than 300. You don't need to go to, for example, 500 when you scan.
Yes.
When I found out that sometimes, but maybe I'm doing something wrong then. Sometimes when students write with pencil, it's not clear. or I cannot see it. So what happens is that I have to, I did the rescanning and again, I put it, I think, to the maximum, and it was a lot of size, يعني الصراحة. Is there a way I can go?
Yes, you go to the image enhancements and you increase the contrast to the maximum. At least the scanner that we are using in the in our department. I put the contrast at the maximum. I put the sharpness at the maximum. I put the
darkness
at the maximum, and I put background cleanup at the minimum.
Okay.
And nothing escapes me.
Even with pencil, huh?
Even with pencil, and sometimes, as I said, it looks in Gradescope much clearer than in the original paper.
In this case, sometimes even with pencil, if a student erased something, it will appear as if he wrote it. So you are going to check the page to make sure that he erased that part. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Very, very informative session, الصراحة.
Okay, good. At the end, I'd like to thank our three speakers, Dr. Wasfi, Dr. Ala, and Dr. Muhammad, for their valuable time. And we're planning to organize, as Dr. Wasfi mentioned, an workshop on using Gradescope probably next week. We haven't set the time, but inshallah we'll agree with Dr. Wasfi. He's the one who's going to be giving it. So inshallah we'll agree with on a specific time, and inshallah announce it maybe later this week. So if you want more training or so, or for those who have never used Gradescope, I think it would be a good, it's going to be a hands-on training, hopefully, face-to-face, Dr. Wasfi, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So inshallah, this will give a very good opportunity for those who haven't used it and would like to at least experience at the beginning, get some useful experience to become confident in using it, inshallah, sometime next week. We'll announce it, inshallah, in advance. So thank you so much for attending this event, and hope to see you, inshallah, in future events of during this week. There are plenty of events, inshallah. Hope to see you in some or most of those. Thank you so much.
Thank you.